The dog appeared at the edge of the fog like it had been waiting all night. A German shepherd, mud-streaked, ribs faint beneath its coat, stood perfectly still on the dirt road leading to the old mill. Its eyes were not wild. They were deliberate. Watching. When Jonah Hale slowed his truck, the dog didn't run. It turned once, just enough to be sure he was looking, and padded toward the abandoned factory that everyone in Briar Hollow pretended not to see anymore. Jonah followed. He would later realize the smell, metallic, sour, unmistakably human, meant he was already too late. Jonah killed the engine a quarter-mile from the factory. The road had narrowed to 2 ruts, weeds clawing up from the gravel like fingers. The old Redstone textile plant loomed through the fog, 5 stories of brick and broken windows, its smokestacks jagged against a sky the color of dirty wool. Briar Hollow had grown around it once. Then the jobs vanished, the town shrank, and Redstone became something else. A silhouette people pointed at when they told their kids where not to go. The German shepherd waited near the chain-link fence. Jonah opened the truck door slowly. The hinges creaked louder than he expected, and the sound seemed to carry. The dog's ears flicked, but it didn't move away. That alone unsettled him. Strays usually bolted. "Hey," Jonah said, keeping his voice low. "You lost." The dog turned its head, eyes catching what little light there was. Amber. Intelligent. Then it walked, unhurried, through a sagging gap in the fence. Jonah swore under his breath. He should have called it in. Sheriff's office, animal control, someone. But the dog had come from the woods behind his property, the same woods where last week's missing persons flyer had been stapled to every telephone pole in town. Mara Klein. 22. Last seen 3 nights ago. Jonah grabbed his flashlight from the glove compartment and stepped out. The air smelled damp and old, like rusted water pipes. Somewhere inside the factory, metal clanged, once, twice, then stopped. "You're not real," Jonah muttered, more to steady himself than because he believed it. He followed. The interior swallowed sound. Redstone's front doors hung open, one off its hinges entirely. Jonah's boots crunched over glass and something softer he didn't want to identify yet. His flashlight beam cut through drifting dust, illuminating looms frozen mid-task, belts slack like snapped veins. The dog stood 20 feet in, waiting again. "You do this to everyone?" Jonah asked. The dog huffed softly, then moved deeper, nails clicking against concrete. Jonah hesitated, every instinct screaming at him to leave. But he had spent 12 years as a volunteer firefighter before moving back to Briar Hollow. He'd learned that ignoring a bad feeling didn't make it go away, it just delayed the damage. They passed a wall where someone had spray-painted "Stay Out" in red. The letters had dripped, as if written in a hurry. Jonah's light lingered there a moment too long. The smell hit him near the stairwell. Coppery. Warm. Not the dead, dusty rot of an animal that had been gone a while, but something fresher. Recent. "Oh God," Jonah whispered. The dog stopped at the base of the stairs, tail low now. It looked up at Jonah, then back toward the darkness above, whining once. Not fear. Urgency. Jonah took the stairs 2 at a time. The second-floor offices had been stripped years ago, wiring pulled, desks overturned. His flashlight caught movement near the far wall. A body. Jonah froze, heart slamming so hard it blurred his vision. The body was slumped against a filing cabinet, legs twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood soaked the concrete beneath her, still glossy. Mara Klein. Her eyes were open. Jonah moved without thinking, dropping to his knees beside her. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Warm. A pulse, weak, fluttering, but there. "She's alive," he breathed. The dog padded closer, sniffed Mara's hand, then sat back on its haunches like it had completed a task. Jonah fumbled for his phone. No signal. Of course. "Mara," he said, louder now. "Hey. Can you hear me?" Her lips moved. No sound came out. Jonah shrugged out of his jacket and pressed it against the wound in her side. The blood soaked through instantly. "Stay with me," he said, voice cracking. "You hear me? You're not dying in this place." Her eyes rolled toward him. Fear flickered there, sharp, lucid. "Jonah," she whispered. He swallowed. "Yeah, I'm here." Her fingers gripped his sleeve with surprising strength. He's still here. The lights went out. Total darkness. Jonah's flashlight clattered to the floor, beams spinning wildly before settling on the ceiling. Somewhere nearby, something exhaled. Not the dog. Jonah felt it then, the certainty that he was no longer alone, that following the German Shepherd had been the second worst decision he'd made today. The worst was staying. "Run," Mara whispered. The dog growled. And from the far end of the office, someone laughed, low, familiar, and close enough that Jonah could smell the iron on their breath. The laugh came again, closer this time, and Jonah felt something cold settle behind his ribs. It wasn't manic. It wasn't loud. It was amused. Familiar in a way that scraped at memory, like a voice overheard once through a wall and never forgotten. "Jonah Hale," the voice said, calm as a man greeting a neighbor. "I was wondering how long it'd take before you came poking around." The emergency lights flickered on, dim red strips along the ceiling, just enough to carve the room into fragments. In that glow, Jonah saw the outline of a man leaning against a desk near the far wall. Caleb Rourke. Jonah's mouth went dry. "You're supposed to be dead." Caleb smiled. His beard was longer than Jonah remembered, streaked with gray now. His eyes were the same, restless, calculating. A scar split his left eyebrow, fresh enough to still be angry red. "People in Briar Hollow believe what's convenient," Caleb said. "Always have." The German Shepherd positioned itself between Jonah and Caleb, teeth bared. "Call off your dog," Caleb said mildly. "I don't want to hurt it." Jonah didn't answer. His focus stayed on Mara. Her breathing was shallow, lips pale. The jacket was soaked through. "You hurt her," Jonah said. Caleb tilted his head. "She hurt herself. Tried to run. People fall in bad places." "Bullshit." Caleb chuckled. "You always did have a temper." Jonah's hands shook as he tightened pressure on the wound. "Why?" Caleb pushed off the desk and took a step forward. The dog growled louder, a deep vibration that echoed in the hollow room. "Careful," Caleb said. "He's protective. Trained, actually." Jonah's eyes flicked to the dog. "Trained by who?" "By me," Caleb said. "Long time ago." The pieces shifted, but didn't settle. Caleb had left town 15 years earlier, right after the fire at Redstone. An accident, the papers said. 2 men dead. Caleb Rourke among them. Jonah had helped pull bodies from the rubble himself. Or thought he had. "You pulled me out of a burning house once," Caleb continued, as if reading Jonah's thoughts. "You remember that? You were 17. Volunteer gear 2 sizes too big." Jonah remembered. He remembered the heat, the smoke, the weight of a man over his shoulder. "That was you," Jonah said slowly. Caleb nodded. "You saved my life. Funny how that works." Mara made a small sound. Jonah leaned closer. "Stay with me," he whispered. Caleb's gaze hardened. She wasn't supposed to get hurt like this. Jonah looked up sharply. "You're saying this like it was an accident." "In a way, it was," Caleb said. "She wasn't meant to be here." "Then why is she?" Caleb sighed, as if disappointed by the question. "Because she started asking the wrong things about the right night." Jonah felt a chill. "The fire." Caleb's eyes flicked to the broken windows. Briar Hollow's favorite bedtime story. "You killed those men," Jonah said. Caleb didn't deny it. They were already dead when the fire started. Silence stretched. Jonah thought of the old rumors, missing cash, insurance payouts, files that vanished with the mill. "You came back," Jonah said. "You hid in the one place everyone was afraid to search." Caleb smiled again. "I never left." Mara's fingers tightened on Jonah's sleeve. "Jonah, listen," she whispered. He records everything." Caleb's expression flickered, just for a second. "Recordings," Jonah said. Mara's breathing hitched. "Voices. Confessions. He keeps them." Caleb sighed. "You weren't supposed to wake up yet." The dog lunged. Caleb moved fast, pulling a pistol from his jacket. The shot cracked like a whip, deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet slammed into the floor inches from the dog's paws. Concrete exploded upward. "Enough," Caleb snapped. "Sit." The dog froze, muscles taut, then slowly lowered itself, eyes never leaving Caleb. Jonah stared. "You control him." Caleb's jaw tightened. "He's loyal." Jonah laughed, sharp and humorless. "You don't know what that word means." Caleb raised the gun, not at Jonah, but at Mara. "Don't," Jonah said. "Then listen," Caleb replied. "Because you owe me that much." Jonah's mind raced. No signal. No backup. A wounded girl bleeding out. A man who should have been dead, standing between him and the exit. "What do you want?" Jonah asked. Caleb lowered the gun slightly. "Help." Jonah blinked. "Help. I'm leaving tonight," Caleb said. "This place is done. She forced my hand." He nodded at Mara. "And now I need someone I trust." Jonah felt sick. "You think that's me?" Caleb met his eyes. "You've always been predictable. You won't let her die. And you won't let the truth stay buried once it's in your hands." Jonah shook his head. "You don't get to decide that." Caleb crouched, level with Jonah. "You already have." Footsteps echoed from below. Heavy. Multiple. Caleb stiffened. "That's not supposed to happen." Jonah's pulse spiked. "Someone else is here." Caleb swore under his breath. "She must have told someone." Mara's eyes widened. I texted my sister." Caleb's face darkened. "When?" "Before you caught me." Caleb stood abruptly, gun coming up again. "That complicates things." The dog rose, ignoring Caleb's earlier command. "Stay," Caleb snapped. The dog didn't. The first scream came from the stairwell. "I." Panicked. Female. Mara's sister. Jonah surged to his feet. "You let her come here?" Caleb backed toward the far door. "I didn't let anything happen." Another scream, cut short. Jonah moved without thinking, charging Caleb. The gun went off again, this time grazing Jonah's shoulder. Pain flared, hot and blinding. The dog slammed into Caleb's legs, taking him down hard. The gun skittered across the floor. Jonah grabbed it, hands slick with blood. He pointed it at Caleb, chest heaving. "Call him off," Jonah shouted. Caleb laughed, even as the dog snarled inches from his throat. "You see," he said. "Loyalty." Jonah's voice shook. "End this." Caleb's eyes slid toward the stairwell, where shadows moved. "You think this ends here?" Sirens wailed in the distance. Caleb's smile faded. "Looks like you made your choice." He reached inside his jacket. Jonah fired. The sound echoed like thunder. Caleb collapsed, blood spreading beneath him. The dog stepped back, whimpering softly. Jonah dropped the gun, hands numb. Mara sobbed once, then went still. "No," Jonah whispered, turning back to her. "No, no." He pressed his fingers to her neck. "Nothing." The sirens grew louder. Jonah sat there, surrounded by blood and echoes, as the weight of what he'd done settled over him like ash. And somewhere deep in the factory, a recorder kept running. The recordings came out in pieces. At first, the town resisted. Then the names started circulating: business owners, council members, a former sheriff. Voices confessing to arson, bribery, blackmail. Caleb hadn't just survived the fire. He had fed on it, collecting secrets like leverage, building a quiet empire in the shadows of a place everyone avoided. The worst truth landed last. Caleb hadn't killed the men in the fire. They'd killed each other. The fire was insurance. The cover-up was community. Jonah listened to the final recording alone in Ward's office. Caleb's voice was calm, almost fond. "People think monsters hide in the dark," Caleb said on the tape. "But darkness is just where they don't have to pretend." Jonah shut it off. The German shepherd stayed at the factory for 3 days. No one could move him. Animal control tried. He bared his teeth. Deputies tried. He sat, unmoving, beside the bloodstain that no amount of scrubbing had erased. Finally, Ward called Jonah. "He won't eat," she said. "Won't leave." Jonah drove back to Redstone under a clear sky. The fog was gone, but the building looked no less hollow. The dog lifted his head when Jonah approached. "You did what you were trained to do," Jonah said quietly, kneeling. "You found help." The dog's ears twitched. Jonah held out his hand. After a moment, the dog stepped forward and rested his head against Jonah's knee. That was all it took. Weeks passed. Briar Hollow didn't recover. It fractured. Lawsuits piled up. People stopped making eye contact at the diner. The factory was fenced off properly this time, signs posted by the state. Under investigation. Jonah resigned from the volunteer fire department. He took a job 2 towns over. Quieter. Smaller. Fewer ghosts. The dog, Jonah named him Ash, slept by the door every night, alert but calm. Loyal, in the way that doesn't ask permission. Sometimes, late at night, Jonah would wake convinced he smelled smoke. Sometimes he'd dream of Mara's voice, telling him he'd been close, so close. He didn't know if he believed in redemption. But he believed in witnesses. On the first anniversary of the fire's truth coming out, Jonah drove back to Redstone alone. He stood at the fence and watched the building in the distance, brick glowing softly in the afternoon light. Ash sat beside him. What they found was still warm, Jonah said, mostly to himself. Not the body. The lie. Ash leaned against his leg. Jonah turned away first. Some things, once uncovered, don't need to be revisited. They just need to be remembered.